Emerging adulthood. Emerging adulthood, the period of life between the ages of 18 to 25, a distinct developmental stage, biosocial growth and strength. Good health habits contribute to a healthy life overall. Sexual activity, sexual and reproductive potential are at their peak. Psychopathology, cope with new freedom and are likely to develop depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. Taking risks, common during emerging adulthood, more likely with men than women. Cognitive, post-formal thought, fifth stage of cognition, practical and flexible reasoning, morals and religion. Learn to balance logic and emotion and develop deeper understandings. Cognitive growth in higher education, advance in thinking and develop communication skills. Psychosocial, continuity and change, heading towards identity, achievement, and personality patterns. Emerging adults and their parents. Families are supportive of emerging adult children, helping financially and emotionally, intimacy, developing friendships that help with the stressors of emerging adulthood and ways to find romantic partners.
Moving on to biosocial development, in terms of growth and strength, in terms of emerging adulthood, this is the period of time when muscles grow, bones strengthen, and bodies develop gender specifically, meaning that males are going to grow more muscle around their arms, while females will gain more fat. The body systems are going to be at their peak function, including the respiratory system, sexual reproductive system, as well as the digestive system. Tie into keeping the bodies in balance. Illness rates for this age group are so rare that that diagnostic tests are not necessary, such as prostate exam, mammograms, and colonoscopies, which won't be done until later in life. There are 3 protective functions that function optimally for this age group: organ reserve, homeostasis, allostasis. So organ reserve, organs have the extra power that can be tapped at any time, but the reserve will shrink each year, so something such as the flu can be detrimental to older populations. Homeostasis is a short-term maintenance to keep the body in equilibrium, and allostasis is similar to homeostasis, but is known to be something that's a longer adjustment, and it affects overall physiology over time. In terms of the body being in balance, it's also important that there's other activities that are taken, such as staying healthy. So exercise is really crucial to stay fit as well as prevent future illnesses. This can prevent future illnesses such as hypertension, cardiovascular disease, as well as diabetes. Exercise is also important because it helps to reduce the blood pressure, strengthen the heart and lungs, as well as other physiological disorders. So this is the most active group due to everyday activities such as climbing stairs, walking or jogging to the store, or playing in intramural leagues. It's pretty amazing that peers and community play such a huge role in their activity level, just because if their community has access to pools, gyms, as well as having walking and biking paths, their likeliness of working out does increase. Emerging adults in this generation do have better nutrition than their past generations, such as drinking more water as well as eating healthier foods. On to sexual activity, as stated earlier, a lot of the systems are at their optimal peak for this age group, so the sexual reproductive system is at its peak. This means that miscarriages are unlikely, chances of conception are increased, and testosterone in both sexes is higher. One bad thing that's associated with this age group is sexually transmitted infections, which is the highest with this population. This can be caused due to the fact of the emerging adults partaking in a new relationship soon after one has ended. As a result of this, anxiety and depression can be a result. Breakups can cause depression, as well as new relationships can bring on anxiety. Moving on to psychopathology, emerging adulthood is a time of happiness and resilience for most people, but there's also an increase of occurrence of mental diseases. This can be due to the fact of multiple sources of stresses, such as vocational, financial, educational, interpersonal. Psychiatrists and psychologists will use the diathesis stress model to explain a disorder. What this does is it basically connects the stress with underlying predispositions that they're exposed to that can result in a disorder.
Cognitive development, a new level of thinking. It is not considered a stage, but a higher level of thought. Post-formal thinking also develops here, and it helps adults procrastinate less. Adults find ways to overcome stereotypes and stereotype threats with the new level of thinking. Dialectical thinking helps synthesize the complexities and contradictions in life. Here, Piaget thought that the highest level of thinking was formal operational. Dialectical thought is actually the ability to combine the emotions and rational analysis, and it is seen in Asian cultures more than any other culture. Morals and religion. Adults generally become less self-centered as they get older, and they become a little bit more independent. Religious faith moves beyond culture-bound concepts to universal principles, and coursework is designed throughout school to help raise ethical issues. Cognitive growth in higher education. It is proven and shown that people who go to college and graduate are wealthier and healthier, but they also have a more advanced thinking level. While going through college works on engaging students more than lecturing by helping them with their cognitive growth. College students are also more diverse now than they were a few decades ago, helping with a perspective on life and culture. It gives them a whole different viewpoint on what they do.
During emerging adulthood, friendship becomes very important to deal with stress, and especially to find romantic partners. Relationship problems are more common in emerging adulthood. Personality change is common in early adulthood, and ethnicity identity becomes important, but it's hard to achieve. Very few emerging adults have achieved vocational identity, and economic situations make vocational identity difficult. Many emerging adults find a combination of friendship, education, and achievements that improve their self-esteem. After achieving identity, adults experience the crisis of intimacy versus isolation. Isolation from socialization has harmful effects in every culture around the world, because without intimacy, adults suffer from loneliness. Family support is needed lifelong, and parents contribute to child's welfare to help them. Emerging adults have their parents are closely connected. Close friendships are helpful for emerging adulthoods. Intimacy. During emerging adulthood, friendship becomes very important to deal with stress, and especially to find romantic partners. Relationship problems are more common in emerging adulthood. Romantic love is complex, and use of social networking and matchmaking sites increases. Sexual intercourse is common. Relationship abuse is very common. This graph, age curve patterns shows that intimate partner violence between ages 18 to 25 is higher than any other age.
In summary, emerging adulthood is the turning point of all individuals' lives. Changes are occurring simultaneously, and the emerging adult is pursuing their true identity. The individual has completed developing. Bodies are generally strong, healthy, and active. Although some emerging adults struggle to maintain good habits, sexual and reproductive potential are at their peak. Emerging adults satisfy their strong sexual appetites by seeking relationships in hopes of it lasting months or years. Psychopathology is more common in emerging adults, including depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. Freedom and independence are high. Risk-taking is also more common in this stage of life. Thoughts begin to evolve into critical thinking, post-formal thought. Adults learn to balance emotions and logic, causing individuals to become more mature. Emerging adults continue to seek identity achievement. They also continue to keep in contact with their families to keep the relationship strong. Lastly, friendships become more important because it is a support system against the stresses of emerging adulthood.
Romantic relationships are sought after with the intent of being engaged. As we all continue to age, we experience this stage in life. We eventually become more mature in all forms, such as thinking about our future and planning ahead. We also feel like we should have our lives together around age 18 to 25. Question: could emerging adulthood be the age of emerging?
References.